So today, obviously, we have a fantastic panel of ladies that are doing great work. We're going to start off with an introduction for Sabrina Jones. I'm just going to read it for you. Sabrina is the owner and CEO of SJC Body Love. As an entrepreneur, child welfare professional, wife and mother, and someone once afflicted with eczema, headaches, dry skin, allergies, Sabrina is an inspiration to everyone who's used her products to address similar health issues, or relied on her for her mentoring to launch their businesses. Her natural line of clean, simple skin hair products were created as an alternative to synthetic chemicals and lotions. She feels we're damaging her health. Once her own health was restored, she was inspired to help others. In 2015, others who were in demand of her products, homemade products, had outpaced the supply. Sabrina found SJC Body Love at that year. Through it all, she's active in her community, her church, her children's school, and always happy to share her entrepreneurial experience to benefit others. Everyone, Sabrina Jones. I'm gonna let this flip in my background because I can't stop. So our next panelist is Brianna Kress. Brianna is the owner of Gorgeous Looks Salon, the Resilience Hair product line, and her newest venture, Earth's Sacred Grounds. As a salon owner and stylist, Brianna is a specialist in healthy hair care with a focus on textured hair. A licensed beautician for 12 years, Brianna has founded her passion in what she calls healing the hair. She attended Minneapolis Community and Technical College for cosmetology in 1998, graduated from Regency Beauty Institute in 2009, and attended National American University and the University of Northwestern for business administration. Brianna produced the first hair show in Minneapolis at Minneapolis Orchestra Hall in 2018, was part of the planning committee for the Twin Cities Natural Hair and Beauty Expo in 2019, which is the largest natural hair expo in the upper Midwest. In March 2020, she was an honoree of Volume 3 of Fearless Commerce book launch, which is a feature of Black women entrepreneurs across the Twin Cities. Through the course of the pandemic, Brianna expanded the Resilience Hair product line to include 3 more products and became a landowner in Missouri with plans to pivot her business to include development of resorts. Brianna is the mother of 1 daughter and a teenage son. Brianna Kress. Thank you. Our next panelist is Shawnee Grisby. Shawnee is the owner of Flava Cafe in St. Paul's Frogtown. As a nonprofit professional, youth development practitioner, and social entrepreneur, Shawnee has over 10 years of experience in youth development leadership, where she has led public and private strategic initiatives centered on the lives of young women of color, youth employment, as well as personal and professional development. Shawnee's passion for coffee began as an undergraduate in Atlanta, where she explored various coffee shops and developed an interest in local independent-owned shops. In these spaces, she could often find a creative outlet and a sense of community. Over time, Shawnee's explored ways of combining her passions for both coffee and youth development in a community connection with that coffee, and discovered this social, enterprising business, Flava Cafe. Shawnee holds a BA in sociology from Clark Atlanta University and a Master of Education in Youth Development Leadership from the University of Minnesota Twin Cities. Everyone, Shawnee Grisby. Last but not least, Kira Ellis, the owner of the Nail Bar, which is located in Uptown Minneapolis. She opened the Nail Bar to focus on elevating the client experience in nail care and diversifying the professional landscape of the workforce. The Nail Bar is a full-service nail salon providing nail enhancements, natural nail care, and pedicure services. As a social worker, nail care has always been her self-care, so she focuses on creating a relaxed salon experience in a friendly and welcoming environment. While growing and running her business, Kira works as a community engagement leader at the Messianic Cancer Center at the University of Minnesota. Everybody, Kira Ellis. So it's all good. So I'm going to start with Sabrina, and we're just going to give a 3 to 5 minute introduction as to who she is personally, just so everyone knows and sort of set the tone for that. And we'll go down the panel with each other, and then I'll start asking questions of the panelists. Sabrina.
Okay.
First.
All right. You gave a really great introduction, but I'm born and raised in Minnesota, so I have roots all the way from the South. So anyone from Mississippi, whoop whoop. All right. Okay, Alabama. Okay, the South. So my parents migrated up here for work, and so I have a sister and 2 brothers. And so I am a graduate of Washburn High School, so Millers. Okay, all right, Millers now. And so I graduated from the University of Minnesota with an undergraduate in psychology and a major in child psych. And then I went on to get my master's in social work. And so I went into the field. First, I started out in Catholic Charities, and so I wanted to work with families. I had a desire to work with children and with families in the community because growing up, that was just a desire of mine because of just that whole village. Because if it wasn't for the village that was helping to raise myself and my sister and assisting my parents, I don't know where I'd be. And I think that created that resiliency for me. And so I knew I wanted to be able to give back. And that was part of what my parents instilled in myself and my sister, was always giving back. That was just always something that was done. So volunteering, didn't really learn what that was or what that word, meant, because that was just what we just did. And so I wanted to make sure that when I was older and grew up, that I continued to do that and found ways to be able to do that. And so I found a career. And so I started out with Catholic Charities, and then I moved over into working with Hennepin County in child protection. And so child protection, very stressful. Dealing with a lot of secondary trauma. So you're dealing with children that have been abused, whether it's emotionally, physically, sexually. And so that can take a toll on your mind, your body, and your spirit. And so being within that field for over 20 years, it was a lot. And so I needed to be able to find an outlet to be able to relieve a lot of that stress. And I've always been a creative person, so I always loved, drawing and scrapbooking and making cards and those types of things. And so it wasn't hard kind of falling into the path of creating my business when I did. But I've always lived here. I've always wanted to move away. So I love seeing the Spelman sweatshirt up front, because actually I had the opportunity to be able to go away to school. I actually got into Howard and not Spelman, Clark, but I got more money to stay here. And my parents looked at me like, if you think you're gonna go away when you're getting more money to stay here, you better think again. So, but I really wish I would have taken that opportunity to be able to explore, and to be able to see what's out there, and to be able to take that all in, because that's so huge to be able to see what's around you, especially as it relates to just culture and that diversity and that inclusiveness, and being able to just see what's out there. But being here and being a part of Minnesota, it made me be who I am. And so I met my husband here, my sons, and so it sparked everything that I do. And so everything that I do is about creating legacy. And so it's not just within my family, but also within my community. And so within that give back. And so as we get further into why I started my company, it kind of led from the hobby into my company. So I'll kind of leave it there.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Brianna. Hopefully your mic is on.
Hi, I'm Brianna Kress. Let's see, I'm born and raised in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I also have parents who migrated here. St. Louis, Missouri is where my family is from. My father is from North Dakota, reservation on North Dakota. And let's see, I have always wanted to be a hairstylist. When I was 16, for my 16th birthday, my friends put their money together and bought my first hooded dryer. I was just the rap queen in in high school, but I didn't start out. I went to school. I started at MCTC at the cosmetology program there. I was pregnant with my daughter at the time. Went on maternity leave, never went back. Because I was fearful. I didn't think that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have a child. I'm a young person. I was 19 at the time. I'm gonna have a child. This isn't gonna be sustainable. This isn't gonna be something that, can support me. And, didn't go back. So I started school for business administration, worked corporate for about 10 years. Got laid off. By then I was married. We had our second child, and I got laid off, and he was out of the country, and I said, you know what, I'm tired of corporate. I'm tired of working behind the desk, and he was gone for about a month, so I enrolled in school. I started collecting unemployment. And then he got back, and I'm like, hey, so this is what I've done, and at the time it was just kind of like, okay, well, I guess I don't have, I just didn't want to be talked out of it, and so so since then, I think that was 2009, and since then I've been an owner of 2 salon locations. I'm currently in the Bryn Mawr area of Minneapolis, and my daughter is now 23, and then I have a 14-year-old son.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Johnny?
All right. Okay, we're on. That mention of raps took me back to middle school and high school. My friends and I, we love, the rap, and the second day it was late. It was, so shout out to you. As you can see, I no longer wear raps, but when I did. I'm Shawnee. I am actually originally from Detroit, Michigan, and I moved here to Minnesota 7 years ago, I think. I was in denial for a long time. I thought I was only here for 4, until somebody said, you can't do math. And they were right. And so I moved here in 2014 from Atlanta, Georgia, after graduating Clark Atlanta University with my bachelor's degree. And initially I had no plan, really. I knew I wanted to go to graduate school to get my PhD in sociology. And I knew the U had a good program, but I hadn't applied. At the time, I was just kind of figuring life out. And I just kind of had a breakdown at the end of the summer after finishing an internship at the University of Michigan as a social research assistant. And I was like, actually, I don't think I want to do this. And so I was telling my friend, I just didn't know what I wanted to do, and I didn't feel prepared as a 23-year-old entering the real world now, moving from college, which is kind of its own bubble. And he was just like, well, my family has a basement that's fully furnished, and the U has good programs, and I know someone who works at the Y. They can get you a job working with you. That's what you want to do, right? And I was like, yeah. And so I was like, but Minnesota? I don't know. And so I just moved here on a whim. And his family was gracious enough to let me live in their basement, use their car because I didn't have a car, got me a job. I got myself a job because I had interviewed, but they had the connects. And so, so that kind of got me on this trajectory of being in Minnesota for a little bit longer than I intended, and I got into grad school at the U that spring, and from there I was like, all right, you're gonna do this program and you're gonna leave. And so after 2 years in 2017, I was like, all right, girl, are you ready to move? And so I was actually ready to like leave the state and go back to Michigan or literally anywhere else. And so I just couldn't find a job that really spoke to me. And so I was like, okay, well, let's do some teaching abroad and see how that feels. And when you come back, we'll see how you feel. And following that, I got a job with the YWCA in St. Paul here, leading their Young Women's Initiative Cabinet, which was a public-private partnership between the Women's Foundation and the governor's office at the time. And I was like, oh, this is like my dream job. And so I stayed around for a little bit longer because I really loved the work that I was doing with young women and doing things around policy, which is something that I hadn't done before. And so that kind of kept me here. And I, lo and behold, started to like think about my long-term plan, which was a cafe, and started doing like little internship programs, accelerator programs, just to learn a little bit more about the industry. And one thing led to another, and it's been 7 years. And so I finally convinced my mom to move here, and my niece and the rest of my family still lives back home in Detroit, as well as other parts of the country. And I'm here for quite some time. I bought a home last year. So as much as I have tried to move, I keep making, decisions in the opposite direction. So now starting a business here in St. Paul. It looks like, this is the place where I've always needed to be. As much as I've like fought the, idea of being in Minnesota, the more and more that I reflected on it over time, is where I needed to be in order to grow and to develop into the woman that I am. And so that's something that I'm greatly appreciative of. And yeah, I guess a little personal thing is I have 4 brothers, and I'm the youngest and only girl. So yay me for being tortured by teenage boys. So that's me. Yeah, I was lots of fights. So that's me. I'm Shani, and glad to be here with you all.
Thank you.
Here. So I will bookend this introduction because I have a similar story to Sabrina. I'm from Minneapolis. I was born in New York. My family lives in Ithaca, but I've been here my entire life. So I'm a diehard Minnesotan. I love it here. I don't think I will leave. I don't think I will leave. So I'm gonna stop that. It's a cold day, so I understand why people feel that way. So I'm from Minneapolis. I went to Patrick Henry High School. And so I'm like mirroring Sabrina here. Patrick Henry High School. I also went to the university for my undergrad, and I did a family social science degree after doing some internships with corporate in Target. And I thought, no way I'm ever gonna be in corporate. I feel like everybody's just waiting for happy hour. Like, I want to do something a little bit more meaningful to me. No knocking the corporate people, right? We need that. And so I thought initially I was going to do early childhood education. I wanted to work with little kids, and then I worked with little kids, and I was, no. Big stop. I do have 2 kids myself now. I have a 4-year-old and an 8-month-old. So little kids have found their way into my life again. But I decided to pursue the degree in family social science so that I could do something a little bit broader in the family space, working in nonprofits. I worked in homelessness. My first job out of college was actually at the YWCA St. Paul in their long-term homeless families program. And then I moved on to public health and decided to pursue my master's in social work in a macro practice. So looking at systems change, going through and working in nonprofits, I thought, we're only taking our clients so far, and I really wanted to fast forward my career to be a decision maker and a leader in the space so that I could make bigger change in the programs that were developed in the nonprofit space. So I started my master's program part-time. While working, I now work for the Masonic Cancer Center at the university. I'm the director of community engagement and outreach, where we are able to do some of that work in transforming what's happening in the research space in terms of cancer into community health education, cancer education, as well as opportunities for growing talent in the fields that are underrepresented in STEM. All of that to say, the nail bar blossomed out of what I feel like is like social work at its core too, is some of that self-care. I love getting my nails done. I've loved getting my nails done since I was a kid. I changed my nail polish every single day to match my outfit in middle school. My mom hated it, but I occupied myself, so she was okay with that. I got my first job in high school probably to get my nails done, is what I'm thinking, so my mom wouldn't pay for it. And so through my academic time, I spent a lot of time volunteering, and I felt very much like a village raised me, provided me with lots of opportunities in different spaces, whether that be in the nonprofit space, on my journey to college, making it through college in my master's program. But I also found and made a connection with the Minnesota Black Chamber of Commerce. I started volunteering with them, working on, and really for the first time saw Black entrepreneurship and thought, maybe I could do this too. Maybe that's a space for me. It hadn't actually been a thought for me to own a business or grow a business. There's only one other business owner in my family. And so I, never thought of it as a career path, but going through and seeing that modeling happen in the Black Chamber of Commerce, I really thought if I ever jumped into a business, what would it be and what were my passions beyond my nonprofit work? And it was nails. I did nails in college for friends, and I thought I'd never had an experience like an experience that felt very customer forward in Minnesota in a nail salon, and I've had that in other states. So that born the nail bar.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to jump right into sort of specific questions, and I'll start with Brianna. Staying on the topic of owning a salon and having a salon, primarily what the pandemic did to a number of businesses, including forward-facing, is sort of stressed out how folks find customers. So I'm really curious as to how you navigated the pandemic through a salon setting, what you did that maybe was different, or other people could take advice from sort of attracting new customers to a physical.
Well, I was actually shut down. So I was shut down for 3 months. So prior to that, I had created one product in my hair product line. My hair product line is Resilience Hair Care. It was an oil, and I had that for about 4 years. And what I always intended to do, got caught up in the busyness of life, never actually did it, was I wanted to expand that product line. And once the pandemic hit, I felt like I was like, wow, I'm hit and I'm unprepared, and all of my clients are coming to me for, products. We have to do our hair at home now. So that was, so I connected with other companies. I was actually gifted just a bunch of products from a company. It was another Black-owned company, and I stayed very connected with them, and I was just selling their products and developed mine. And so during that time, I was blessed to be able to expand during that time, but I would say, just not being prepared was what was very eye-opening for me. And also, so that is a big draw. That's drawing. That is one of the things that are drawing my clients to me. They're very, supportive of that. But also, just putting the pandemic measures in place, the safety protocol, I found surprisingly that's drawing more people. Like I have maybe half, maybe not even that much. A lot of my clientele who they just decided to not come back. They figured it out on their own. Maybe they found another stylist who actually stayed open during the pandemic. But I've had a huge turnover of just an influx of a lot of clients who actually saw the measures I was posting. Yes, I do still mandate masks, and yes, we do, lock the door between clients, and that was a draw. And I never thought of it as a marketing technique, but it ended up being a very positive thing for me.
Awesome. Fantastic. Kira, same thing. Same thing. Just looking at it from the salon perspective.
We too were shut down, so that was interesting. So the nail bar started in June of 2019. We moved into a bigger space January 2020, and then we're shut down March 2020. So we had done a ton of marketing and getting our name out there and all of those things in the first few months of the pandemic. Being shut down, we were totally unprepared. I remember sitting in the salon the day before. We were like, everybody go home. And I would say during the pandemic, what we were able to do was take a step back, be thoughtful about the way that we would relaunch. We started selling some at-home pedicure kits. We did some Mother's Day specials, started kind of looking at different ways to craft our work, and then opened with those same precautions. It is a hard hit to beauty businesses because we're volume businesses. We depend on being able to take a large volume of clients, sometimes stacking clients depending on service, and you can't do that in COVID times. And so it really has given us a place to rebirth the way that we integrate with clients, and I think it continue to stress the importance of health and safety, and I think that's one of the things that stands apart with the nail bar brand is too, we do focus a lot about healthy nail care, and it really kind of blended well with the different precautions and ways that we discussed how our business would survive. If folks like you like this space, if you like your nail techs, things might change about the way that we do your service. It may take longer. We had a slight price increase because of the need for extra time, extra sanitation, all of those things, maintaining the workforce. So there was, I think some of the draw or retention of clients was around the respect factor for what we do and how we treat our clients.
Awesome. Thank you. Sabrina, question as it relates to both e-commerce and the products themselves. Being able to, obviously this is the holiday season, but supply chain issues probably affect all of us in one way, shape, or form. Could you just talk more about your products, how you're getting onto the marketplace now and how that works?
Yeah, and a little bit about just what Brianna and Kara went through too. COVID hit me the same because moving into e-commerce, I mean, my business started out with e-commerce. And then I had the opportunity to open up a brick and mortar. And then the governor's task for the governor's orders came. I had moved everything into a store. And then the orders came to say, shut down. And I had to move everything out of a store. So they're like marketing, that was money that went into that. That was like shutting it down. And so then I had to like rethink and put money into like rebuilding an e-commerce. And so I switched over platforms because I wanted to be able to meet my B2C, which is, business to consumer, and also my B2B, my business to business, because I wanted to expand on that. And so I wanted a platform that would be able to help me meet that, moving everything like back home. And so when it came to COVID, things started to slow down, and we're kind of seeing that now with the supply chain demand. And so for a small business, it was very hard because I had to buy in bulk. And so I had to really prioritize what I could afford and what I needed. And so I had to take a hard look at my product line because I made everything. And so I did reach out, and I do have a partnership with a co-packer. And so that's somebody that I trust that signed a NDA. Okay, non-disclosure, okay? Don't hand up nothing without an NDA. And that will take my formula to be able to mass produce it on the higher scale. And I also have a fulfillment center, but I also still do the minor co-packing myself. And so I had to kind of look at my product line and say, what can I do myself? And so, and actually during COVID, my business kind of picked up a little bit more. And I kind of prouded myself because I was able to kind of deliver better than Amazon. And so my business picked up a little bit more, so I started to see higher traffic because I was able to get products out and delivered within the, 3 days versus Amazon pushing things back to a week to 2 weeks to when you just didn't know. I mean, people were kind of canceling their Prime memberships. Why don't know? But, so I was just trying to but I had to take a hard look at what I could deliver on. And so I was making shifts on my website and updating it and constantly trying to keep my clients updated on what was available so that they would be aware of what they could order and when they could receive it. And then I had to look at my forecasting to see, what, I should be ordering in supplies. The good thing about the products that I make, a lot of my ingredients go across a lot of my products. And I did that intentionally. And so I had to be able to see, okay, what could I, mass produce and make sure that I could keep that on hand. What could I bundle? And I had to see about if I needed to increase pricing because I wanted to make sure to keep my products at an affordable level. And so was it either bundling and increasing so that they could see that cost effectiveness piece of it, or was it, decreasing, the quantity of what you got, but keeping the price the same? And so, but also listening to what my clients wanted and hearing from them because they're the ones that are buying. And so I didn't want to lose them. And so that was the piece because it just hit hard. And it was funny because it was like, who was considered essential? And it was just like, we got closed down, but it was like, hey, essential, like skin, hair. I mean, it's like, it's considered essential. And those that had access to getting to those places. And there's a lot that happened within Minnesota, as you all know. And then, during that time, there was a shelter during Christmas that burnt down. I don't know if you remember that, but the Drake. And so some of us in the beauty industry got together and we partnered up and we put together our products and we donated them to the shelter. And then there was then the riots, and then there were a lot of essential places that got burnt down. So it was hard for those in the community, vulnerable adults, young families to be able to get to places to get their essential products. People don't think about it until you need it. Shampoo, skin, lotions, things like that. And if you're dealing with a skin disease or, because 1 out of 4 have some sort of skin disease, whether it's eczema or psoriasis, whatever it is. And then when you're having to just deal with what's in front of you and it can make it worse, it's like you're compromising. And so that's kind of what I had to go through. Dealing with the e-commerce is just kind of really having to sit down and look at what I could do and then opening up my mouth to ask for help.
Thank you so much. Shawnee, who does something I really love, which is coffee. Big fan of coffee. But you're more than just a coffee shop, and just your love for community and what you do for conversation. Can you tell us a little bit more about how your coffee shop isn't just a coffee shop?
Yeah, thank you for that. Also, that was almost the name. It was just coffee, but it was supposed to be some kind of pun, but it didn't work. But yeah, as Carl mentioned, it's not just coffee that we'll be serving and selling at our location. And like I said, my background is in youth development and really focusing specifically on working with young women of color and more specifically Black girls and gender expansive youth. And so as someone who has spent at least 10 years doing that work, which makes me seem older than I am. But youth work is something that happens from a very young age, especially in communities of color, whether that's you babysitting your little cousin or whatever the case may be. It's all this very informal and organic exchange. And so I always wanted to carry that work with me wherever I went, because as a young person, at the age of 18, I realized how much of a village I had with me in supporting me to get to where I wanted to go, which was to college. And so I didn't know how I was going to get there or what I was going to, do. But with the women that I had in my circle, we decided to sell food. My mom loved to cook, and I knew people who liked to eat. And so we put those two things together, and we sold dinners for $8 to $10 to folks in our community. We went to barbershops, churches, schools, our friends and families' work, and sold dinners to raise money for me to go to college. And once I saw how much the community backed me and cared about my story, even though they didn't know me, they knew that this little Black girl had a dream of going somewhere that wasn't, just on the block. And so that is kind of what helped me really think about how I wanted to show up and how I wanted to give back to young people. And so that's something that's ingrained in me as a person, but also something that is a part of my business. And so a part of Flava's mission is to provide holistic mentorship and coaching to young women and gender expansive youth. And so we're moving beyond just the traditional work experience. Yes, they're going to get that, but it's also going to be culturally competent, because as people of color and gender fluid, folks entering the workspace, it's a different ball game. And so we have to be honest about that. And I want to make sure that young people feel prepared about, their journey into young adulthood. Obviously, you can't prepare for everything, but for the spaces and things that I know I want to share. And so we'll be doing that. And in the future, I do want to invest in, I call it a Radical Dreams Fund, where we can provide funding for young people to explore, whatever their wildest dream is. If it's just to go abroad, for the first time, I'm here for it. And I just want to be able to be a resource for young people in all walks of their life as they just kind of figure out who they are, what they love to do. And so I guess that's a little bit of the youth component in there, and we'll be focusing on young people 16 to 24. They don't have to reside in St. Paul. But a lot of our community partners will be from the community. Right now, the YWCA St. Paul is our first employer partner, and we're looking, at other entities as well to provide salaries and such for our young people, because they are paid internship positions as well.
Awesome, thank you. Thought I saw a hand, but maybe I didn't. Brianna, something interesting I found in your bio was you're looking to sort of pivot your business to resorts in some way, shape, or form. Could you tell us more about that, just out of curiosity?
I forgot I had a microphone. So I have a business partner. She's actually here supporting me today. It kind of just fell in our lap. There was land available, and I was just going down this rabbit hole of, I think I was just on Facebook at 2 a.m. I was in a group called Flip Your Zip, and all these different people who were giving their testimonials about, I switched my zip code, and this is, how this was my journey, and just encouraging other people to do it and supporting others. And someone posted a link about property in, I think it was Detroit, for sale for $1,000 to $10,000, and and so I'm just clicking on stuff basically, and I get to this site that's just about land, and my friend is a realtor, and I sent it to her is this real? This looks too good to be true. And she's like, I'm gonna do some research. I'll look at it. We absolutely should do this. Yes, this is real. This is true. This is, and she's licensed in Missouri and in Minnesota. So just that was kind of where it started. And it took a couple of, maybe about how many weeks would you say, Tiffany? Oh yeah, and it got to a point where she was dealing with the guy directly, and he was getting, because it got to be such a stressful situation. Like the land was getting picked up like this. It was getting snatched up, and so the opportunity came. He said, "I'm getting ready to post this one." Before we posted, I know you've been trying to purchase this land, and you've been seeking fervently. And before I even posted, I'm going to give you the opportunity, speak to your business partner, and see if this is what you want to do. And she said, "I'm going to take it. I'm going to make that decision for her." When we signed the purchase agreement and visited the land 2 months later. And we have our LLC registered in Missouri. It's going to be Earth Sacred Grounds, and we are hoping to, because it's located near Branson, Missouri. It's kind of a resorty area. That is what we are hoping to also contribute to that area.
Fantastic. Thank you. Exciting to hear. Sabrina, I've sort of watched some of your growth over the last few years. Where do you see your business going in the next 2 to 3 years?
Oh, yes. And big thank you to Carl, who's been a part of my journey I met Carl through the Minnesota Black Chamber of Commerce. So with SJC Body Love, besides having an e-commerce, a website business, and a brick and mortar, because we were able to open our store in May. That's in the IDS. We are also part of the Dayton's project. We do see ourselves being a supplier. So we do have other B2B partnerships that we do supply here in Minnesota and also Wisconsin. But we are aiming to supply other big retail. So hopefully you'll be able to see SJC Body Love in your big retail stores like Target and Walmart. But we're having conversations with some of the co-op stores right now. And so that is ultimately the goal. The retail stores helped during COVID to kind of stay afloat, which was nice. And with skincare products, you like to be able to smell and touch and feel. And with e-commerce, it's really meant for those that know what they're buying and have experienced it before. So ultimately, that's where SJC Body Love will be, is a supplier.
Awesome, thank you. Kira, kind of same question, like where do you see your business at multiple locations or other locations coming?
I'm not sure exactly yet. I'm actually at that phase with my partnership about what the next steps are. The industry is changing a lot. The workforce is changing a lot. I think that's what COVID exposed in a sense. Yeah. So I'm like, that doesn't answer your question. In the next 2 to 3 years, I'm not sure. So I think that I am looking to adjust our current business model. We want to come in and do a little bit more booth rental and mentorship of nail technicians coming into the space. There is a lot of nail technicians, or just in the beauty industry, providers that are seeking solo suites and doing lots of small business work or working from home and all of those things. And we provide a salon environment and a really amazing culture of diverse women in our space. And our staff love that aspect. And so what we see for expansion is being able to provide more business and entrepreneurial skills to the women that work at our salon, and so that they're best equipped to continue to grow in their career after having been a part of the nail bar team.
But can you talk about your model, because I love it, and those that don't know about the nail bar, say more about that space and just how does that work?
Yeah, it's coming along. So we hired initially we hired our staff, which is not necessarily as common in the beauty industry. A lot of folks are independent contractors. They come in, they're responsible for their own, taxes and insurance and all of that stuff. And thankfully, we didn't. We hired our staff hourly, which is a risk because we need clients and chairs to make money, and to be paying folks when there aren't clients and chairs as a growing business is absolutely a risk. But I felt like we have to pay for people's time, and figuring out the best way to do that was what I aimed to do. And thankfully that happened. We did do that because we shut down, and my team was immediately able to access unemployment because they were employees. And that was uncommon, and it was something that was rumbling a lot around our beauty industry, that people were really suffering in those first few months. But my team was okay, and I was really happy to be able to provide that stability. And as we have grown, my team has changed a lot. We have a lot of brand new nail techs that come into our space, that come and learn from one another. I am not a nail tech, by the way. I don't think I said that. I, informally did nails in college for friends, but I'm somebody that's coming in as an owner-operator. And we grow community and skill building in our team. We've hired people to come in and do training and that stuff too. But seeing after COVID, I think everybody in the world got a chance to take a step back, especially in America, take a step back, get a sense of what is it that I like, what is it that I want to see, and that was no different for my team either. So they're all saying what does the next few years look like for me? And I think there is a growing desire to own their own space or salons or grow. And I think I have a unique opportunity to provide that support. So going into next year, that's what we're going to be doing, is transferring, kind of having a stair-step process for our nail techs that have come in brand new, learned a lot, grow in skills, have now a stronger client base, to start to learn other things about growing their business, or growing their business even if they stay on as an independent contractor within the nail bar as a new option.
Awesome. And thank you, Sabrina.
So there's a reason in my mind why I wanted the four of you to be here today, and part of it is that what I like to do and what I've been doing for a while is figuring out ways to bring folks together to collaborate on initiatives, right? Whatever that looks like. The four of you somewhat do different things, somewhat the same, but I feel they all work together. Have any of you, and this is just for the panel, whoever wants to speak to it, have you decided or ever thought about partnerships in that way and combining with other Black entrepreneurs to sort of create a bigger network?
Yeah, I can speak to that. Yeah. Kira, we just got done this weekend just partnering with doing that, but I'll speak a little bit about my business first. When I opened up my retail store with the co-founder, Tianji Designs, and she imports goods from Nigeria, one of the main things was opening up the store. We did not want to wait for opportunities to come to us. We wanted to be able to provide opportunities for ourselves. And so part of that, thank you. And so part of that was also providing those opportunities for others. And so within that space, you're going to see a Black publishing company within the space. You're also going to see a grant writing company within the space. You're going to see a hair care company within the space. So we want to be able to do that give back. Also within my company, moving to e-commerce, I wanted to be able to partner with other woman-owned BIPOC businesses. And I started a subscription box that kind of helped also keep me afloat. But then also within the space, I wanted to be able to host events, to be able to, because I love bringing the community together, but also other opportunities for clients to be able to test the products and just meet each other and just create a space for people to kind of come out. And so, and just this past weekend, when there are events that I'm able to assist with or host or be a part of, I'm always constantly thinking of who do I know, who can I bring in to be a part of this, and because it's networking. To be an entrepreneur, to start a business, just to be within this, to stay connected to folks out there, because you're going to go through some things, and you're going to need to learn some things, and so it's nice to be connected to those, because a lot of times we give each other business, to be able to help each other through. And so I know, Kiara, we've partnered with each other. I know my B2Bs, that's how I've started and have gotten my products into either their spas or their stores. And so, and that's a continual thing, so.
Kara, did you want to touch on that? There's Shawnee.
Good. Oh, thank you. But yeah, that's something I've also been doing a lot of over the past year, especially because we're not open yet. So getting those referrals from folks who have either tried my coffee or bought, merch or whatever from me, and seeking, opportunities for us to collaborate together. So as I'm building out the space, there are folks, who will be hosting like book clubs out of our space, but also I'm a person who loves like art and creativity. And so as a poet, like obviously open mics, but also wanting to introduce folks to different like creative Black spaces across the Twin Cities. Because as I was sitting in the kind of atrium area today, I was talking to someone, and we were talking about like the lack of like Black-owned coffee shops, and they were like, "Wait, are there any?" And I was like, "Yes." And so it felt good to like be able to have that information and share that, but also like thinking about other creative spaces that exist and how we all kind of operate in silos. And when I see like coffee shops, I really think about them as like it's not just coffee. It's really like about community and like communing people and coming together. And so how do we all like get in touch and collaborate with like all of our brands and like host whatever it is that we do well in each other's spaces, so that we can kind of like cross-pollinate our audiences, so that folks know about these places as well. And so that's something that I hold strong to is partnership and collaboration. And so at some point, hopefully, there's some collaboration or partnership that, can happen between the folks on this panel as well. So that's how I plan to do that and what I'm currently doing.
Great. Awesome.
So I'll say my business is formed from a partnership. So we are co-located with the Beauty Lounge Minneapolis, which is the hair side of the business. This is how, life puts you on a journey for lots of reasons. I said I hated corporate when I worked there as an intern, but that's actually how I met my business partner now. So 12 years prior to us starting this venture together, we were in a training class at Target Corporate together. She was moving from Atlanta, starting full time, and I was an intern, but we were paired together, we worked together then. When I decided to open the nail bar, I connected with Mita, so power of networks is huge for everything that you do in life, and not burning bridges either. So I worked with Mita. They heard about what I wanted to do with my business as a startup, which I imagined as a solo salon. And my consultant at the time was like, "Do you know Melissa Taylor?" And I was like, "Actually, I worked with her years ago. We have been connected like on social media, but I haven't really like seen her in a long time." So anyway, she owns the Beauty Lounge Minneapolis. She serves a multicultural audience. It is very much in connecting and learning more about her business. It was very much similar mission to what I wanted the nail bar to be, and an experience in space. She was looking to expand her space. I was looking to start. We have complementary businesses. We decided to go into business together. So we launched in 2019 in her old space, in a much smaller space. And at the same time, we're looking for our larger space that we were able to move in together. So we were able to partner and shoulder the risk of going into a larger investment, renovating a space. We're in the uptown area. It's, pricey. So this was a great and safe way for us to partner as business owners, and also feed each other business. as we were growing, and I'm attracting different clients, and so is she. But when people walk into our space, whether they found the nail bar or the beauty lounge, they find us both. And so they're, people are getting their hair done. They're like, oh my God, they do nails here? Can I make an appointment? And so we've done that too, which has been really cool.
Awesome. Brianna, I just got a text from my wife, and she asked me to ask you. Because she read your bio. So she is curious about when the next Twin Cities Natural Hair and Beauty Expo is. Sorry. This is live. This is it. Do you know when there's one?
Speaking of partnerships, I was actually going to speak to. The course of my career has been developed through partnerships. The first salon and the salon I'm currently in now started out with partnerships, and right before COVID hit, I solely took the salon on as my own and shut down 2 weeks later. But yeah, and then also keeping the theme with utilizing the space for partnerships. I recently, the space I'm in is a storefront style space, and so next door, I just rented the space next door, and with plans of I just was recently certified with in non-invasive laser lipo, and the plan was to utilize the space for that. There's licensing issues that I'm coming against, so my plan has pivoted to offer the space as a pop-up space for Black-owned businesses, and I plan to do that just until, who knows, until the owner says, all right, what are you gonna do seriously with this space? But yeah, the Twin Cities Natural Hair and Beauty Expo, another partnership. I became a part of the planning committee. That was greatly impacted by COVID. We had about 2,000 people throughout the course of a day. So it was canceled last year. We canceled it this year. So look for it in 2022. August 14th, 2022.
I'll let her know. After this.
And you can follow it on Instagram, Facebook, Minnesota Natural Hair and Beauty Expo.
Awesome. Sounds good. What is, and this is for the panel as well, what's the most common misconception or perception, I guess, of Black women entrepreneurs, Black women in business, challenges you face? Anyone who wants to speak to that? It's a loaded question.
I can take it on. I'll start. One of the things I think that we saw a ton of so when we reopened June 2020, it was kind of in the wake of all of the civil unrest. We actually were delayed. We delayed our opening because of what happened with George Floyd. There was this intense wave of attention to Black businesses when this happened. We saw an influx of tons of one-time clients. And I think one of the things that is a common misconception of Black entrepreneurship is that our spaces are for Black people only. And that is not true at all. We are a large community, we are a welcoming space, and we focus, especially nails. Nails is broad, everybody has nails. So I think that's one of the things, just as Black entrepreneurs ourselves, your first wave of connection to your business and growing your business is within your own network. So whatever that looks like may become the faces of your clients to start with. But as we grow and expand beyond that, we need other people to be looking at our businesses too, because our spaces and our products and services are not just for Black clients alone. So I think that's one of the things I come up against a lot. And in seeing that big shift, we had a lot of people that were like, oh, I didn't know this space exists. They come in and they see diversity in terms of their nail technicians, because our staff and our hair staff, they're not all Black either. So we serve a multicultural audience. We serve a very diverse group of clients, but I think in seeing me here maybe talking and promoting that on my page, I think it sometimes gives that perception that maybe our space is only for black patient or black clients, but it's not. Not at all.
Then also speaking from the perspective of actually being in the beauty industry, someone who would like to become a part of it, I think that a misperception, what I've always seen and experienced through other stylists, just not embracing change. There's a lot of, I was taken under a wing by, business owners and stylists who were in it for a long period of time, and if it ain't broke, don't fix. Like that was the motto. That was, if there was a so just kind of not just kind of a fear of embracing change, and that's in reference to product knowledge, technique, technology is a big thing. The misperceptions, like embracing change would bring about like an unnecessary risk, and then but you eliminate those risks by just not doing it. So it just kind of gives you the advantage, and I believe that this pandemic has shown us that it's also necessary for like survival to just really embrace change and not be afraid to pivot.
I would say for me, what I've experienced over the past 2 years is just folks thinking that I haven't done my work. Like, did you talk to this person? And did you research this thing? And are you registered? And it's just like, yeah, bro, I did all that. And so I just that's something that I constantly ran into with every networking connection that I made, not every, but a lot of them. And it really got to be a bit draining to where I didn't even want to talk to people anymore, because it just made me feel like, well, shit, what is the point of all of this? Sorry, kids getting to see this, I'm sorry, excuse me. It was just it became a bit annoying just to kind of repeat the same thing, or just to then go through all of this check, and then for them to be like, well, I don't really know how to help you then. And it's like, well, I could have told you all of this stuff. Even if I did send them all of this stuff, they would still ask me, so do you have a business plan? And have you done your pro forma? And it's like, you have everything that you're asking me about. And so why are you asking me this? But it was always the expectation that I didn't do it, or I didn't know. And oftentimes I was giving them information that they didn't know. And so I think just I don't know how to put that out there when you're going into those spaces and networking with people, because sometimes it is a lot of information to give up front, but just don't let people assume that you don't know. If you know what you know about your industry and your business, be very clear about that. Otherwise, it's a waste of everybody's time, because they're repeating stuff that you already know, and they think that they're helping you when they're really not. And so being very clear on what your intentions are with meeting with them, or whatever the case may be. But that was a challenge that I still continue to face today, with folks, just assumptions. I didn't get into this just by whim. I do my research, and yeah.
Yeah, I have to say the same thing down the line, especially with skincare, and when they see me and I am the face of my brand. And I had thought about that for a long time, because at first I didn't want to be, pigeonholed and for folks to think that, oh, this is only for black and brown skin. And so part of my branding in the beginning was, if you have skin, you can use it. And but then I had to bring that back and let folks know this is multitasking, it's multi-use, and for those that have dry, sensitive skin, and if that fits within, if that fits, then you're able to use it. But also not being prepared, and so just like Shani said, and so when I started my business, I got certified, because I thought going through that process to showing up, hey, I am WeBank, WSB, MBE, DBE, TG, what other, E do you need to know that I'm certified, to show that I've been through that process and vetted and professional. I'm here. I have a distributor, fulfillment center, I'm ready. Co-packer, I'm ready. I've been here for 7 years, I'm ready. So what do you need? Through all of this and what we've gone through in COVID, I'm still here. I'm open. I bootstrapped it. I'm still here. What else do you need to see? Still striving, still moving on, still making connections, still partnering. I'm here. But it's still that constant, are you prepared? Are you ready? And so when they find out about how I started home-based, it's like, that must mean something. What does that mean? And that's how a lot of, businesses start out. You start out in your garage, your kitchen, you're making formulations and you're putting it together, and then you're hopefully able to grow into maybe a commercial kitchen, and then maybe to take that step and move it elsewhere. But just, having that plan. And I think like Shani and I think you mentioned, accelerator programs and things like that. I just started getting connected to programs so that I could just say, what is it, where do I need to be? What do I need to have in place? What conversations, what language do I need to be using to let folks know I understand, I'm here, I can compete, I know my brand. And so you just have to understand and believe in yourself. And what I've heard in this process from the beginning is you may hear no's, but it just takes that one yes. So.
I want to make sure I get this question in because I always like it. Who is a role model, business role model that you follow, or latest book that you've read that young people might want to jump into or find out more about? And whoever wants to start.
Well, right now I'm reading Rachel Rogers' We Should All Be Millionaires. So if you're not reading that, you can pick that up. But also, like Kiara mentioned, I am trying to build a team. And so one of the things kind of coming out of COVID, it's been a struggle with hiring, and really kind of building that team. And so I'm looking at the whole entrepreneurial piece and the whole EOS piece, and building that team from operations to sales to marketing, and really getting the right people in the right position. Because the one thing is, when you are an entrepreneur and you sometimes start out as that solopreneur, and so you are the CEO, the COO, the CFO, the janitor, the secretary, you want to make sure that you start to delegate, and you delegate it to that right person. And so I'm starting to read a lot of the Gino, I think Wickman books, and so How to Be a Great Boss, and the EOS books, and so things like that.
The books I'm reading have nothing to do with business. But if you're curious, I'm reading Lower Ed by Tressie McMillan Cottom, who was a sociologist. She's just an overall bad woman in a good way, and she uses a lot of curse words, and I do too, and so I like her. And she's also really smart. And I would say, as far as like mentor, who's like informal and probably imaginary for me, but Issa Rae is someone that I really, really, really admire. And just like thinking about my own career and like trajectory, it's like, I don't want to say it's similar, but like we do share like similar stories and backgrounds in terms of like the work that we started doing and kind of where we're going. And so I just like to follow like the work that she does, and how she's kind of blossoming into all of these different spaces and places. But she's someone whose work ethic that I really admire. But yeah.
I would add, I wrote Rachel Rogers, actually, she has a podcast as well, Hello 7, which does pick you up on a hard day in entrepreneurship, I would say, and a lot around confidence. I'm excited that you also said Issa Rae, because that is somebody that I also admire, and I have an unapologetic tattoo that I got last year because of her, thinking about the fact that it is being a generation kind of breaker, or changing cycles, and being somebody that is taking, I will say, brave steps as an entrepreneur in our families. We don't have a family history of entrepreneurship. We don't have these huge wealth building legacies, and we're not my family, I will say, is doing a lot to make changes. So like my kids and going forward are gonna have their eyes wider open is the goal. But I also feel like in a lot of ways that it's important for me, to live really unapologetically in my own space and the way that I think, and really start to own and have confidence when I'm doing what it is that I do, because it may feel a little spread out, like I'm a social worker, I work in cancer, I also have a nail salon. Like it doesn't blend normally, but there's transferable skills that I'm really putting in both places and looking at things in a different way and still creating new things. And so the other things that I don't have a chance to read a lot. I have little kids and all that. But I do podcast is my thing. And so Hello 7, and then I also listen to a podcast, Market Mondays by Earn Your Leisure, which is about investing and growing financially, because I think as an entrepreneur, that is a scary, and even as just in a Black family, money is scary. Anything finances, accounting, I'm not a math or science wizard in any way. And so it is a little bit nerve-wracking to not be paying attention. So I'm trying to push myself into uncomfortable spaces. And so thinking about how do I grow and sustain my business and ways that I can make investments to like still be on mission and support my workforce when maybe our clients are, and we're in a slow point of revenue. What other ways can I make sure that the business survives? I'm looking at things like that.
I just started reading a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. Self-improvement strategies designed to develop healthy habits that work for you rather than against you is pretty much the theme of that book. I like to listen to podcasts as well. The podcast that I listen to with my son on the way to school, I put in Mindset Mentor, and I just wanted him to listen to something other than, the radio or, the rap music that's playing or to be on his phone. But I realized that he was listening. He'll scroll through his phone while we're driving, and then he'll say, "Hey, Mom, can you rewind what he just said there?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, he's listening." And then Hot Mess Millionaire, that's a podcast that I listen to by Dr. Venus Opal Reese. This woman has a potty mouth, and I love it. Like every other word is a cuss word, but this woman I don't even cuss like that, but she just keeps it so real with her. She's just very vulnerable, but she has so much wisdom and knowledge. She built, she's a self-made millionaire and shut everything down because to focus on her mental health, and then completely rebranded herself. And just went a completely different way. So I really admire her. And then also another podcast is How I Built This. I listen to that. It's just the stories behind some of the best known companies that we know of, like Uber and Lyft, and just how those things are built. Can you give me the name of that investing podcast you listen to?
Yeah, Market Mondays. Is Earn Your Leisure.
There's a couple mentions of, and I'm just throwing this in here. If anyone else has a question, please let me know. But now I'll just ask my own personal questions. You had mentioned a few times about the struggling to hire. I don't want to make an assumption as to what that is, but could you sort of anyone elaborate on where the struggles are coming from?
For me, it's definitely it's an industry issue. I don't know how to say. We're looking for new talent, but clients don't necessarily want new talent. So a balancing act of growing skills in a way that also makes sense for our clients. We have, thankfully, senior staff that are still with us that are great. And so that is one of the biggest pieces, is that readiness. And then we have seen some folks that go through our training program, have a great experience, grow in skills, and then leave to do something solo as soon as they kind of turn the corner of like being able to stand up on their own in our space. So it's interesting, and I think that's why I'm just really starting to think about if this business and industry is kind of moving toward everyone feeling a lot more like wanting to be independent than really growing that. And I think, social media has really made entrepreneurship very attractive. And you kind of forget, like you leave the 9 to 5 for a 10 to 10 to 10 to 10 to 10 to 10. And a big investment too, financially, mentally, physically, like all of that, because I am the owner operator. I also fix the furniture and bring in the supplies and sweep the floor, and sometimes don't get paid, mostly. And so I think there's this shift in ways that I think the beauty school does not prepare the workforce for. So there's kind of like a reach back that has to happen. We often, and even for my partner, feeling like she has to retrain stylists when they come in, and it's a significant investment on a small business to have to do that, and then not retain the staff. So I think retention has been something for us that has been really tough.
I have no clue. I'm still trying to figure it out. And so I'm actually even trying to reach out to those that I know that are in the recruitment world to just say, this is what I need. And really trying to bring in like brand ambassadors and trying to figure out what will work. Because I do need someone that's going to be there for my company to speak to it. And so I have to think of it from the perspective of, bringing in someone that can hopefully eventually pay for themselves. So whether it's coming from that sales and marketing perspective, but also somebody that knows, knows their lane. Because I'm at that point that, yes, this is my baby, but I'm also willing to trust you and delegate and stay in my lane so that you can be able to work yours. And so, that's where we're at. And so with this shift of kind of coming back into the workforce, and it's like the training, and I think that there are those that want to be able to go out and start their job or their own company, and just probably being transparent with that. And if that's what that is, it's great, because I love being able to mentor and to coach, but being able to give me that commitment and give me that time frame. Because if that's what you want to do, then let me know. But just say, hey, I can give you, 2 years. And hey, I can give you connections, I can give you that networking. We can do this together in that partnership. And I think that's probably the conversations to have up front versus us putting that time and money and resources into the training. And then 6 months later, you're gone, and then we're kind of back to square one, because then it's like, what are we doing? Because do you really feel that you're equipped after 6 months? And then we're kind of starting back at square one. And so really kind of standing there and thinking about, okay, how is this going to really benefit the both of us? And so those that are out there that have those answers or no, let us know.
While I'm not open in my location yet, I have started the hiring process of like youth interns. And so one way that I was able to kind of get around having to pay financially for youth or staff was partnering with local nonprofits who have like county or state grants to provide workforce development for young adults to well up into folks who are beyond the age of 24. And so there are a lot of organizations that have this money to provide work experience or job readiness training in a variety of fields, who can also pay for training. So if someone is interested in beauty or like the hair care industry, like they can pay for them to do professional trainings at certified institutions, as well as pay for them to work for you in your business. And so that's one thing that I've started to leverage, as well as those types of partnerships. And in 2019, I'm losing concept of time, I decided to take on a job in the cafe industry. And so I started as like an apprentice to some folks in the coffee industry, just so I could learn a little bit about like the operational side with staff. and tried to also introduce them to like this model of like partnering with local organizations who have the dollars to provide staff. And so what I've like noticed, or what they have told me about like, you know, this hiring frenzy, is the assumption is people don't want to work because of like unemployment benefits, but I don't know that that's necessarily true. But I do know that, you know, quality of life and like, you know, salaries and hourly salaries, and sometimes, you know, $11 an hour or $12 an hour is not enough for a functioning adult, especially someone who has children, to put on the line every day to come and work for an establishment. And so it's really thinking about, you know, how much are you paying your staff? And outside of that, like, are there any additional, you know, benefits that you can provide? Maybe you don't have a benefits package where they have health insurance or, you know, whatever the case, but what other benefits can you provide? Whether it's some kind of like fund, as I mentioned, like the Radical Dreams Fund, or some kind of like, you know, pool that you can, you know, use to help your staff, or like maybe it's financial literacy education with your staff so they can learn how to manage that, you know, $12 an hour paycheck. I don't know what that looks like, but that is something that I've given some thought about, like, you know, how much to pay staff, and, you know, what's an equitable wage, and even $15 an hour is like the broad, you know, the grand scheme of things. I'm a person with a mortgage and so many other bills. You know, $15 an hour just ain't gonna cut it if your mortgage is $1,300 a month, right? And so thinking about other ways that we can provide benefits that are beyond financial, but that maybe that could help our staff and employees in the long term, as well as like whatever the hourly pay is, because, you know, it is hard to have like those types of benefits packages and things like that as a small business. And to be able to provide health insurance and PTO and like all of those things, but all of those are really important. And when you don't have that, sometimes staff feel like they can't take off, and so they're coming to work sick, and like that kind of snowballs into all sorts of things. But yeah, I think that is just going to intensify with like COVID. And yeah, like Kira said, a lot of people are also just starting their own things, which is also another thing as well. But I would say utilize your local nonprofits as well to figure out, you know, how you can partner. They have tons of money usually, and like they want to connect with employers, so they just don't often have like the best networks. So.
And I'd also say colleges as well. So if you are looking at starting a business and staffing and even temporary, because there are students that are needing jobs or credit, and so either their school will pay for their hours or their classes, and so that's also help that you can receive and help that they'll get and pay until you're able to bring someone on either full-time into a position, because I know starting out, sometimes the first thought is like, I can't even pay myself, how can I pay someone else? But you know, having to start to think about those things. So definitely start thinking about how to pay yourself, because you're the one that's there 24/7. And so I do pay myself, I am on my payroll. And that was a long and hard decision to make. And then when I started getting connected to different networks, and getting pumped up, I was like, yeah, and reading Profits First. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna pay myself first. And you know, I started out small, whether it was $10 or 20, I was like, my first paycheck. And then it started to move up, and now I'm on my payroll. But then I started to ask around about, you know, where else can I get help? And then it was like, well, you can, you know, get college students, and then that way you can kind of build up their skills and so on and so forth, and then organizations out there and get that help too. So, and then figuring out the business model to where you can bring someone on, you know, full time and have somebody that is salaried and hopefully be able to offer those benefits. And so that's the point that I'm at now, and so really wanting to secure that piece so that we can help scale.
Well, this was amazing, so thank you all for your time. I have a follow-on question to what a couple of you have said about as you entered into or decided to take on entrepreneurship, whether you were coming from a prior career or you're still in one. I'm just curious if each of you could speak to how you thought about that risk of both the investment and like salary those of you that are maybe still working, like, you have a day job and this is your side hustle, or you've figured out some type of balance with a partner or something, like if you could speak to a little bit how you made that first step, and got past some of the fear of sort of the financial risk you were taking.
I can speak quickly to that. So right now, I actually still have a full-time job, even though, but I actually consider my business my full-time job. And my full-time job, my son, you know. So when, before COVID hit, I had actually made the plan of providing my notice. And then they actually said, you know, everybody's moving back home, we're taking away offices, you're working from home. And so I made the decision, I was like, well, based off of my duties and everything that I needed to do, I knew that I'd be able to handle everything that I needed to do and still run my business. And so I said, well, let me just hold off a little bit and rearrange priorities and see if this is something that I needed to do right, you know, then and there. And then secondly, my husband has been very supportive, because having two boys, 9 and soon to be 6, it was just like I couldn't do it without him, because there are times there were late nights, and so I had to make sure that he was going to be on board, because there's times that sometimes he's working a market when I'm at another market, you know, or I'm at the store because, you know, a staff person's called in sick, and he's covering, and then he's got to stop what he's doing. And so I needed to make sure that he was okay with anything that happened. And he carries us on his health insurance. And so those are kind of the decisions that we had to kind of talk about to make sure that once I do make that transition, that we would be okay, because we do have, you know, kids. And so it's like, okay, healthcare, check, okay, mortgage, you know, things like that. You know, how much do we need to make sure that we're bringing in to make sure that the bills are covered, you know, and then if I'm going to be paying myself, and looking at all of those things. And, you know, that's where that forecasting, you know, comes in, and the sales and how much to be bringing in. And if things like this happen, you know, how will we be okay, and those kind of things.
Well, my business is my sole means of income, and I initially, I was very fearful, hence giving it up the first time and then kind of going back. I didn't really have the support from my husband at the time, which is why I did it without his knowledge, and that that didn't. I mean, it went over well. But, you know, with having someone there who, in everything, in action, deed, in every way except at verbally saying they don't want you to do it, that was kind of a driver for me. Going through my divorce, I was very stressed. I did have a part-time job. I picked up a part-time job while I was married, you know, so that the reasoning was to be out of the home and not have to, you know, it was just yes. So it shifted from picking up a part-time job, still working in the salon, not really needing this part-time job, to when getting divorced and thinking like, okay, it's a good thing I have this. I eventually ended up letting it go. I was working 7 days a week between the two. I got very sick, and my body, just the stress of, you know, everything I was dealing with personally, and, you know, just trying to carry everything. It's funny, the person who encouraged me is also the person who normally projected a lot of her fears on me. It was my mother. She, you know, I'm the first business owner, you know, in my family. And so it was always a lot of doubt. Usually that was kind of, you know, thrown out there, but she was the one who said, you know, do you remember when you first opened and you first started doing that? You really prospered. You really, you know, just hearing that from her, that did wonders for me. And just speaking with, you know, friends who are business owners, who are doing it, just kind of okay, how can I navigate this? What can I do? And one thing that I do to this day, and that I had to actually learn to do to get kind of out of because it can be, the hair industry can be, you know, inconsistent. And so one thing I had to do with my scheduling, I had to get as many people as possible, standing appointments. Okay, this week you're going to come at this time, and, you know, and then that way I could gauge. That's as close to a paycheck, knowing what I'm going to get weekly, monthly, yearly, by just setting up my schedule specifically to just have, you know, like a reoccurring type thing happen for me. But yeah, that was a pivot for me. It was a determination and then that push that I needed to, you know, open my eyes and say, like, okay, no, I'm not going to listen to, you know, what has been spoken over me, and, you know, just proceed forward anyway.
Actually, I resigned from my full-time job in August of this year, one that I have been doing for about 4 years, and it was very scary. But mostly the decision was made not because I didn't enjoy the work that I do or anything like that. It was like a lot of mental and physical stress, and so I just kind of needed to take a break. And so because of all of the work that I was doing for them, I couldn't focus on what I needed to do for myself and for the cafe, and so I figured something had to give. Yes, I had bills, and I was like, I'll figure it out. Usually I'm like the person that makes plans, but I was like, I don't have time to plan for this one. So I just like had to just step away, and I did figure it out, because that's what I do. I figure stuff out. I won't cuss again, Carl, I promise. And so I ended up picking up 2 part-time jobs, and also just like leveraging my skills in like my youth development world, and, you know, program management, and like getting contracts to do more program like management type of, or project management projects to support myself, on top of like doing things for the cafe, such as markets, and just like different vending opportunities that I have. And I mean, it's still pretty risky. I always like didn't want to be the person that lived check to check, because that's how I grew up, but that's, you know, the reality of my life right now. But I get to enjoy doing the work that I do. And so I know in the long term it will pay off. It's just like, it can be a little iffy some weeks, you know, but, you know, you just gotta go with your gut. And I mean, as long as you have a good skill set, or a few different skills, you can always leverage that into something else. And so that's just one thing that I know is like, I'm very creative, and I can figure out where to get money and how to get money if and when I need to. And so that's just my reality and where I'm at. Yeah.
So I do still work full time. I will say, like, you just have to do it scared. I'm scared all the time. I'm still scared. I think with the COVID and the shutdown and all that craziness was like, wait a minute. We just put a lot on the line, and we just made major investments, and then, you know, I rely on my team to be the day-to-day face of our business, and we have leadership established in the space that allows me to like not have to physically be there every day. But I don't think you will ever be super comfortable unless you're like a millionaire, have some secret fund, and you don't need to support yourself in some way. A support network is vital. My husband is somebody that he does sign off. He does encourage me. He picks up the kids when I'm at the salon late, like all of those things. So you need to have those things in order. And if you have a partner in your life, you absolutely need their support, or to let them go if they don't support. One of those things. But I think there is a big, you just do it scared, and you stay that way, but be as smart as possible and asking for help when you need it. And, you know, I don't know that I would stop working full time exactly, but I think the idea of entrepreneurship has shifted my own lens, and like I said, the transferable skills should be a buzzword for everybody in this industry, right now, because of this hiring world. I feel like I could do a lot of things. I manage a team at the Cancer Center. We do external relations, meaning I build marketing plans and communication plans. We do events and all these other things. I can transfer that to a different piece of content, and so I'm just trust that I can perform and I stay up late enough to do it, because you do have to do that hard work and you can't avoid it, and I think you have to make those real commitments to yourself if you're gonna grow something, and be okay about not getting paid from that thing for a while maybe.
I just wanted to add to that too. And even though I have my full-time job, I work hard on that, because I don't want them having to say anything to me. And so I make sure that that's covered. But the other piece too going into it is, there's investors that you can look for. There's grants, there's things like that to also help be able to supplement and, to put aside to be able to help put towards your business, to allocate towards those expenses that you have. And so you just kind of, work everything. So, because actually today I'm going and meeting with an investor. So it's just, those things that you just have to kind of, keep out there and just know ahead of time, what it is that you need and putting out there. So that eventually you can say, okay, this is, my expenses, this is what I have, this is what's coming in. Maybe this is the day that I can, boom. I have enough that I can be able to write it and not need that. But I'm handling it right now, and until it's just to the point I'm done, but yeah.
Before we wrap up, any other questions from the audience? Just one last question, Suzanne. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I have a question for all of you. What advice would you give a young woman who is starting a business and is struggling with coming up with funds?
That was my question as well, so fantastic. Perfect. Whomever next, sorry.
I think you absolutely have to be your best advocate, right? You know your business the best. You can speak to its passion. There are lots of resources for entrepreneurs in the state. You just have to really be seeking and show up when it's time. I think that's one of the things. When I decided to do the business, I went to Mita right away to ask those questions and how do I, take this step to this step. We leveraged assets that we had, but we were kind of building for that purpose. I've been researching my business for a few years before it launched. And so knowing that, you kind of do have to get scrappy about the ways that you do that next step. And also, for me, not having tunnel vision about what that needed to be. So I thought I would have a standalone salon in the beginning, and then ended up in a partnership, which worked better and financially made more sense for me. So I think sometimes it's you kind of have to alter. You don't do the whole I want the dream, all the things. You start in a lane that can then expand.
Yeah, so I second what Kiara just mentioned is have your vision, but also be open to how that vision might be able to change. You can have your deal breakers if you'd like, but just be open to all of the possibilities. And I would say for someone who is currently raising capital for a business, it's been quite the journey. So as Kian mentioned, there are tons of grants that are out there, especially for Black women, for minority-owned businesses, and with all of the impact of the civil unrest last year, there was a laser focusing on minority and Black-owned businesses. And so I would say do your research and see what's out there before you start to, I know people who are signing leases and don't have the money. And so just make sure that you are doing your research there and that you are looking at different, websites or sometimes it can be overwhelming when you go on websites and they have all these hundreds of grants for different things. But take the time to look through it and kind of figure out keywords that work for your business and what you're looking for. But also like that networking helps in saying, you know, what it is that you need, know how much it is that you need. I think that's important because people will ask you, and if you're like, well, I think I might need 50,000, and it turns out you need 100. Well, that's a pretty big gap. And so knowing your numbers and knowing, what it is that you need those things for are going to be important. But also if you are skilled at writing, that's going to be a great asset for like grants and grant writing and all that stuff. If you're not, there are free programs that can teach you how to be a grant writer and all of that jazz. And also other platforms such as iFund Women is a platform that I used for my first campaign where I raised $13,000 for the cafe. And so they have a lot of free resources as well as coaching and mentoring that they provide from their staff. So just like see what's out there, I would say. And also investors are another way of getting into that. And the last thing I'll mention is there is a tool called PRI, which is it's program related investments, which is kind of like a new philanthropic tool for folks who are looking to have their charitable tax credit for the year, but also want to receive some type of return on their investment. And so they get the best of both worlds as an investor. You get to give to, a charitable cause, but also you get that money back, whether that's in terms of equity or a loan, like however it's set up, you get to decide that with your partner. But that's a tool that's available through the Venn Foundation right now. I don't know how much more accessible it'll be in the future, but that's a tool that I've utilized as well.
I'll just add to what they said because that's yes, I don't want to repeat. But there's some programs in Minneapolis that I've utilized. I don't really know what's available in St. Paul, but the Black Women's Wealth Alliance is one. NDC is another. META. And what was the other one?
Neon.
Yes. Also, I actually took her husband's grant writing class years ago. So yes, taking a class on grant writing. If you just don't even know where to start, there's free programs. I took it through Neon.
I'm one right now, so yeah.
So the NDC, so the Neighborhood Development Center, the West Broadway Coalition, and so yes. Let's see, so there's getting connected with those programs because they can help you and they can let you know what's out there because you don't know. And so they can say, hey, so whether there's the SBA grants, and believe you me, they can help you fill that out. Don't go through that process because it can be cumbersome and you may want to give up. But there's funds that are out there, so stay connected to be able to be informed about that. And then learning about the different types of investors because you want to be able to know if somebody's wanting to invest in your company, what type of equity you're willing to, give up, if any. Or whether it's just, the grant or just angel or just here's some seed money, different things like that. And then just, and not be afraid and just get out there and apply. I am not a grant writer. My husband, his company, Ideation 4, he helps those become comfortable with grant writing. And so yeah, ideation4.com. He's wonderful. He's great. I hate grant writing. He, walked me through that process. He got on me. I thought that because I lived with him, he would write them for me. No, he's like, hey, babe, here's this grant. You should go for it. And I'm like, you're not going to apply for it for me? He's like, no. I mean, he set up the template. But to go in for, to go and show you though, but he did set it all up with what he does for his class, but to go and show I am one of the Comcast Prize recipients. So, I went through it and I did it. So it's just whatever's out there, just go and apply because you just never know what you may receive. And then you can just kind of put that in your bank. So, but yeah.
Well, fantastic. Like I said, we were going to stay on schedule, make sure everyone has a good time, have an opportunity to sort of say hello to the panelists before you leave. But on the screen there, you'll notice that our next speaker series on health and wellness will be January 10th. It'll be here as well. And we're still working on another one, but the two fitness instructors that we have coming in are absolutely amazing. People I've known for a little while, and we really want to make sure that you go online, register for that event, and then if you have any questions, you can certainly reach out directly to me or to anyone at JA technically. But for that being the case, thank our panel, please, with a round of applause. Of course, all these stick around for some pictures and things like that. And if you have any other questions, certainly let us know. Thank you so much.